You see, something is going to happen. Something wonderful.
My God, it's full of stars.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. On this episode, we are back with our guest Mike with Space Force, Trump, a little bit of Aquino, maybe some underground stuff, a whole bunch of other stuff that will be in this episode, and if need be, maybe in a part 3. Might have to do some more. And we got the same crew as last time, which is how I kind of want to keep it going if we have to do more. And I do have some ideas in the works with Mike in the future, and maybe try to keep it the same people again going forward. I got Liza, the mad scientist, with us. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Liza.
Absolutely.
And I got Headless Giant with us tonight. Real quick, Headless, you just want to let everybody know where they can find your stuff.
Well, you can find me on Instagram. My X account recently got suspended, and I haven't been able to get back into it.
Oh, shit.
But
damn.
We'll see. I'll probably make it to the clone account pretty soon and get back on there. But you know how it is. Musk is no friend to anybody. I think that whole charade's wearing off. So
I can't. I honestly, I'm just even surprised that you lost your account. Like you lose your account, but I wouldn't from some of the shit that I've said on there. Like I just don't get that. It's like how does they even pick and they don't even pick and choose that great, do they?
No, what I think it is Ben Shapiro is running a honeypot operation. So anybody who comments there is going to get banned, you know?
Actually, I didn't think about that. It all depends on who you're probably shitting on, too. I really, totally forgot about that. Oh, and we got our boy Thrash on tonight. What's going on, man? Thank you very much for joining us again.
What's up? Thank you.
Awesome.
How's it going?
All right, not too bad, not too bad. It's good to be podcasting again. I actually haven't done much in a bit. And we got the guest himself, Mike. What is going on? Let everybody know, you don't got it. Oh, plug the other shows that you've been on. And then if you don't mind, just kind of remind people about what we're getting into, and then take it away whenever you want to start. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you want to reach out, Magic with 2 Ks, Mike with 2 Ks and 2 Es at Twitter. I've been on Subconscious Realms if you want to hear my story, and we kind of get into the Space Force stuff. Did a 3-part series, and then did another episode with him, and then just recently we got into William the Orange, which the implications of that and the Loyal Orange Lodge.
Yo,
so that'll be coming out.
Is that the same guy with the carrots?
Yep.
Yeah,
I had no
implications
idea until recently. I was like, yo, are you kidding? I've been living a lie. Carrots aren't orange.
Yep, and New York used to be called New Orange. The monarch butterfly is named after him. These lodges, when you look at the symbolism, it's esoteric as hell. It all leads up into these black lodges, and I found a bunch of different ones that it leads into, and then they use the red hand with the heart. It kind of goes into, I think, Oddfellows, because these guys raise orphans too, just like the Oddfellows. So we dug in, the research is ongoing with that. So that was a really cool episode to do, especially with King Charles doing the monarch butterfly painting, right? So stay tuned for that. And then I was on Threshold Saints with Jin and Ninja. That's coming out soon.
Awesome.
That one's heavy. That one's good. And then I'll be on End of Days Radio.
Oh,
coming up soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, those guys are cool as shit, man.
Those guys are cool as fans. I'm be happy to go out there. So
Yeah.
stay tuned with that. And
thank
today
you.
we're going back in to the Space Force. I think we found some really interesting stuff correlating to some things that happened into the news. We're going to go into that, and then we'll go into kind of what they're doing a little bit, some of the technical things that they're up to, maybe have some theories there, and then we can go into the history of the land and why they made it chose here. So
Very nice.
it'll be a good one. This is a huge exercise with multiple nations involved. This happened in 2003 in August, and it was a big to-do. It was the first actual exercise with other militaries the Space Force was a part of. There was a lot of movement going on. They had Colombian Marines, all kinds of different, you name it, all kinds of different Army, Navy, Everybody was involved. They were doing a combined operation down in South America, setting up different weapons, setting up different, satellite stuff, all that. But there just might have been some weird things that happened in the news on that same exact time in the same exact area. And
now, do you know the name of this exercise? I know most of these joint operations have a specific.
The one. If you give me 1 second, I have the note here too.
Because I know in Egypt, the U.S. government sent a whole bunch of reservists out there to menace the Egyptian government. And
Operation Happy. Oh, sorry.
Operation Happy?
Happy Sir.
Happy Sir.
Happy SUR. That was one of them, but they.
Do you happen to know if Shining Path was part of it?
I don't.
Sendero Luminoso.
I'm not sure. I know that they got a lot of things done. They did all kinds of different things in there. I have the note here. Hang on. And then I can read it too. Well, the Peruvian alien thing was going on around that time. That was in the news. There was all these sightings, right? And there was some sketchy videos. They were saying there were these guys on discs flying around harassing these towns at the same exact time. Literally, it was August, and they were there through July. The sighting started in July 2023. Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is A-10 Space Force joined in South American exercise for the first time. Okay, and then if we go into the particulars of where the Space Force was actually at. Okay, meanwhile, the Space Force is also getting involved through Operation Thundergun Express, a 21-day Space Force deployment exercise nested under Resolute Sentinel. Members of the 16th Electromagnetic Warfare Squadron worked with compatriots from Ecuadorian and Colombian Air Forces to build a mobile space detection system called in Cali, Colombia, and Rio de Janeiro, Colombia, and based on their command and control in Lima, Peru. So their command and control is in Lima, Peru. According to a South release, it was the first ever defense space control operation in U.S. Southern Command history. So the date on this is July 14th, 2023, that this article is out. And I guess
I see it. It's Operation Harpy Sir. So it's a harpy, not a happy. It's interesting because the harpy is really an ancient symbol of like this sort of beast that comes and steals, right? And what you're talking about, these abductions, that kind of sounds like harpy related, you know?
Oh, no way.
You know, the flying miners?
It ties into a group I was just looking into before the show that ties into Aquino. Sorry, of course they're mowing right now.
Yeah, me and Thrash have been talking, man. Me and him have been bouncing our heads off each other, and we got some stuff coming, man.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you actually told me earlier.
I didn't say why it ties in.
Yeah, go for it, man.
The harpy's an eagle, and they're like white. And there's like
they have some white ones and some dark ones. There's actually a really famous painting in I think it's a German guy in the 1930s made this two harpies, right? It's sort of like the two wolves, but one is the harpy of happiness and one is the harpy of I think it's depression. And the idea there is like it all depends on who you're feeding. That's sort of like the spirit or the ka that takes over.
Mm-hmm. And they're native to South America.
Right. Well, the harpy and the eagle, yeah. There's a South American eagle. It is. I think it's the golden eagle, and definitely a dark harpy, right?
Yeah. So they have a harpy eagle out of Brazil, and it has that white face, and then the rest of the body is dark, and then it has the ornament at the top with its on top of its head. So yeah. Right.
As I'm looking at pictures of them, they actually kind of look like the Pueblo clowns. They got like the black and white striping when they open their wings. Mm-hmm. Kind of interesting.
Right. That is really interesting. Yeah. If they were influenced by that eagle, that's impressive.
Yeah.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It's wild. Like the best account I could get where it kind of pierced what's really going on down there with these guys, this guy Timothy Alberto went down there, humanitarian relief. He went down there to the community that was really, really freaked out, and went down there, taught them weapon safety, and interviewed everybody. And because they were patrolling with these shotguns and setting up these traps, really good dudes. And but when they're interviewing this little girl who got the closest to these aliens, and they try to grab her.
Was there a name for the sighting so people can find out more about it? Is it just Peru sighting? There's probably more
Peruvian,
than.
And there was a few towns around there that were seeing these things. They were seeing crap. They were seeing these guys on this, and then there was the face peelers, right? There was a person who had their face peeled they took pictures of it, and when they tried to grab this girl, she thought that they were trying to cut her face with something, but she said that it was two guys speaking in Spanish, but one was a gringo, and so she even called one the gringo and one the Peruvian, because one spoke regular Spanish, the other one spoke like broken Spanish. And then they said, we got to get out of here. They tried to grab her, take her on this like sled that they're flying, and got out of there. And when they're interviewing the guys in the village, half of them think it's aliens, half of them are like, no, those are guys, it has to be people. So it's just very, very strange coincidence, and the times line up perfectly. Like,
I think you actually a while back when you first told me about this, I'm pretty sure you actually sent me a news article that I remember looking at.
Yeah.
That talked about like sightings and
I got one pulled up here. It says the Office Tracking Reports of UFOs has added nearly 400 additional sightings to its catalog the last year because of new sightings in Peru. So they have a huge file folder full of 400 sightings. 400 different people are seeing crazy stuff in the sky, and they're recording all of them.
Yep. And they're acting like military movement. Like these aliens aren't acting like some faraway thing. They're communicating in English or Spanish. I mean,
it seems like they're using exactly like the Raised by Giants guy says, they're using the UFOs as cover for operations.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, when you read about what Space Force is doing, they're working with ground troops to set up stuff in Lima, Peru.
Right.
And
you know what I think is so genius about this stuff is that, like, my opinion, this is kind of like what's going on with like Skinwalker Ranch in a sense. Like, you kind of have like, we're going to use these UFOs as a cover up for things we're doing, and then we're going to use our research on looking into these UFOs to do other things besides that. It's almost like it's cover. Like a perfect it's the perfect cover up, really, to keep on doing more stuff. To do shit and blame it on the UFOs, and then when people bitch about it, now we're spending money to look into it.
Right.
And then we're going to do other testing. Basically, we're just funding more testing on what we're doing.
It's the perfect self-licking ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That's perfect.
I've never heard that before.
And
that's what they call these government boondoggles.
Has you looking out instead of in.
Right.
And covering up the real paranormal stuff happening around and psychic phenomena and all of that. So it's a way to cover up anything of use, anything of power. Look over there, it's scary. That's your new god.
All those trials that they had in the Congress during the same time period start to make a lot of sense, because they're trying to legitimize the activity and say that, yes, it's legitimate for us to investigate this stuff. Meanwhile, they're the ones doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank God for Stephen Greer.
Right. Exactly.
They've had Project Paperclip, Project Sign, and then like 5 other ones, and it's been the same exact thing every time, and people still pay attention to that stuff thinking something's going to come from it, and it's the same exact playbook every time. They don't change it up a bit.
Right.
Well, now it seems like they want you to believe it. Now it's
we are the psyop now. All the people who report on UFOs and all this activity, we're just covering up for the government. We're doing it willingly without ever having any sort of second thought. We assume it's UFOs. It's aliens. I don't know why we assumed that, but here we are.
And power comes from that. Like, I've even heard you talk about it, Nick, and it's really interesting in the Vietnam War, all the crazy stuff they did, playing tapes of stuff.
I was going to bring him up when you mentioned the face peeling.
Yeah.
The face peeling reminded me of, I can't remember that dude's name. I was like scrolling through my videos and gave up. Because I did cover that one dude where he actually had people like thinking there was like vampires in the woods sucking people's blood.
Michael Aquino.
No, it was before him. It was before him. He was the guy right before Michael Aquino, which is Harry Lansdale, something
Lansdale.
like that. Yeah.
Lansdale.
Yeah, which is why I'm wondering, like, if Aquino kind of like bit off that as a vampire.
Oh, of course.
You know, and was like, I'll just go with face peeling now.
Michael Aquino wrote the U.S. Army War College's doctrine on how to carry out mind war with his book, Mind War. That's exactly what you're talking about in Vietnam, Operation Monarch.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was the Philippines that he had that this guy Harry Lansdale did shit in.
Oh,
yeah, that was...
Yeah, Edward Lansdale.
Edward Lansdale, yeah.
It was the whole precursor to the Vietnam. It's literally the whole...
Basically we installed the president we wanted and everything. The guy even came out before he got elected and practically said, I'm basically going to do whatever the United States thinks. And still got elected.
Right. Painfully obvious.
And the disturbing implications are, this is readiness, it's seeming, battle readiness, whatever. I mean, they're finally kind of maybe trying stuff out. And for what? What are they getting ready for?
According to these news articles, Peru has bolstered their entire economy with Space Command and with the agreement that they are collaborating with the U.S. And there's a lot of commentary from the UK from it as well. So it's interesting.
And Thrash found a good point. He found somebody that had joined Air Force as a civilian or Space Force as a civilian. So we were looking like there's only 8,000 people here, and there's people swearing into the Space Force as civilians right now. And so we know that, and we've seen that now. And so they're privatizing the heck out of this branch of the military, and it's really creepy because that's a way to hide stuff. You can't
a lot of money. A lot.
Yeah, you can't.
This is the culmination of the entire Iraq war. That's what they learned from it, is we need to have as many contractors stealing as much money from the federal government as possible so that we can get the best possible outcome when it comes to PR and propaganda.
Yep.
I think the new frontier is South America. I mean, China's had their sights on it, I think, for a while, and we've kind of just allowed it to go third world, to our benefit. But now everybody's wanting to cash in with all of the reserves down there. And so we see the influx of the international crossings of the border, of all this influx of people. People think that they are all Mexicans, and they're not. Majority of them are Central and South Americans. Never before have you ever seen it like that from Central and South America. And I think they're purposely moving these people because they want that space.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Oh.
And there, there's something interesting that connects Peru with Colorado. And it's not subduct. It's when the ground gets raised and raised and raised, like Lake Titicaca used to be at sea level, but forces in the ground raised it up. And when you do that, water fissures down, 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 just like here in Colorado. Same thing. We're a mile up, but all the water falls down. So there's a lot of underground potential in Peru as well.
Yes.
Right. Mineral rights down there are probably very much in the demand right now.
Yeah.
And the gold, they got gold there.
I was going to say the amount of precious metals that exist in Peru alone, just by itself, is enormous. I mean, that's where the Incas were. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Well, that money is never going to filter back to the United States.
No, never. Yeah.
Yeah, all the gold, All the amazing monuments, the mystery of that place, man.
Also, the Shining Path, like Lisa mentioned. So there's this communist group that are living in the woods out there, and they're the perfect tool to menace the people to keep turning back to this American puppet government, you know? And we know that these communists are globalist funded. So that's incredible that they're just following all the little points of the playbook in areas like Peru.
It's sad, but yeah.
Really
It's super sad. And not to mention all the cocaine.
That's, you know,
That's where
Machu
all the
Picchu, when we went to go tour Machu Picchu, they looked at the remnants of the soil to see what types of crops were being grown, and it was exclusively grown coca plants.
Yep.
That's it only grew coca plants on the terraces, and it was maintained by priestesses and all kinds of, I guess, like nuns type deal that were cultivating and harvesting it all.
You know what I just thought of too that I'm wondering if might have been beneficial for Peru? Mushroom growth. Like, no lie, like psychedelics. Is it a good place to psychedelics grow?
I don't know. Yeah.
Because, I mean, they have been known to, like, basically going through, like, places to find mushrooms.
Well, some of the first ayahuascas came out of Peru. And that's really where it all started, was Peru itself, out of the Amazon. So that's where it all birthed.
Well, that sounds silly, but I think, like, you know, if you go by what Time Magazine kind of tells you about how, like, we got magic mushrooms, like, the government basically was, like, going through, like, countries and, like, trying to find, like, the shit. You know, they're like, going to towns and stuff, and, like, they're trying to get, like, the people there to, like, share their concoctions with them. And, like, they didn't even want to because they knew that they'd fucking use it for something fucked up.
You know what else is down there? Anesthesia.
Yeah.
Blow it in someone's face and they're your slave.
Yo,
yeah, you're talking about devil's breath.
Yep.
Yeah, devil's
I think we
breath.
talked about that.
Yo, not even that. I've even said this, and there's somebody I want to get on my show one day. I'm not even going to say his name because I probably never get him to come on, but fingers crossed. Lisa knows who he is. A guy who's like into anesthesia. He's some like sort of doctor. He's got I think PhDs, and he's probably, you know, very well known. He's not like a nobody, and like he kind of like gets into the whole thing about eyesight and the brain. In my opinion, it sounds like scientific occultism, but like he was kind of like very big into anesthesia and saying like, do people realize like what that is and like what goes on? And, you know, it's almost very occult and magical when you start tossing anesthesia into shit. It's like you're kind of putting somebody into both worlds. So you're very tethered, I think.
I heard a guy who has a foundation about trying to stop anesthesia and forced comas, because these medical comas, sometimes people don't actually go to sleep. Like they're awake the whole time.
Yeah, it was something he was getting into. How do you explain that when somebody's like watching their operation getting done? He said, but yet their eyes are closed. They're not there. How is that?
Some people relive a traumatic memory for the entire length of the forced coma. Over and over again.
I have actually heard of that because of people like thinking it's freaky to watch it happen. Like watch their own surgery too.
Right.
I'm good on it.
Well, it's funny. The Incans would run 30 miles barefoot, and knowing that they were high on cocaine the whole time, it kind of makes sense.
Well, I'll tell you this. When we did the Andes, when we climbed up the Andes, in order to get over altitude sickness, we drank coca tea, which has the 14 alkaloids in it. And I mean, it worked. The people that didn't drink, they had to be ushered out on horseback. Wow. So,
well, the thing was that they told them, and when you get like to a certain point, you get another bump. So that's why they kept going. They were like, fuck it, I'm just running to the next hit.
America is just a continuation of the Incan traditions.
But what I was going to tell you is that the Amazon itself, they have sky bridges up to the top of the canopy of the actual Amazon. And the medicine man that we went to go stay with, he told us that it was people from Harvard. He said, I think he meant Johns Hopkins, but he mispronounced it or whatever. But he said all those big universities, he said some from Europe as well, came in and built all of that. And that all they were interested were in the plants. And that he asked the guy who was taking the plants, he says, oh, we take them back to the lab and then we look at what they are and then we make it synthetically into a drug. So he said every drug that comes out of the Amazon forest.
See, that even goes
That's what
back
he
to
had said.
sounding like some Gottlieb type shit too, with all those poisons and stuff. Like it's just like
Well, hey,
They were the first one to have access to it. That's for sure.
Thrash, you're from this town. Did you ever see the 2CB, 221I,
Oh yeah.
all that shit?
Yeah.
Crazy
Yeah,
ass
there was
research
a bunch of
chemicals?
people that was into that. Oh yeah.
These are
Oh,
the
did you
craziest
think-
things of all time, and they were like,
Do you think that's coming out of the underground facilities they got? Like people have been taking it home?
if the pretty girl at the rave offers you a line of Molly, it's not Molly. Get ready, buckle up, because it's an experiment night. Like, I swear, like, happened multiple times in my life where all of a sudden you're just on the craziest hallucinogen of all time.
yeah. I remember.
And I'm not kidding. It's happened twice. So
I remember one time I was God, this is going back, who knows, probably like maybe 20, might have been 20. I was at a rave and with a bunch of my friends, and like if you went enough, you'd start kind of like seeing like some of the same people, and like you kind of like, I guess, you know, assume if you're still showing up and you haven't gotten your ass beat, like I'm sure like, you know, you're probably all right, you know. So like if you're kind of like mixed into the drug scene, you're probably like a legit person, not like a scam artist. And I remember there was a girl that like we would see quite often, and she was like telling us that she had acid. And she's like, oh, I'll get, I think she was selling it, and like near the end of the night, she still had some left, and she's like, oh, I'll just give you some for free. I was like, really? And like, you know, that you need like a drop.
yeah.
And like whatever it was, I'm sure it probably wasn't acid, because if it was acid, regardless of me spitting it out, I probably would have fucking lost my mind. But like she squirted like a fuck ton into my mouth.
Oh,
So like I always wondered, like, I mean, was that like make me, I don't know what idiot would be like, oh, if that's acid, I'm going to swallow all that. But like if you swallow that and went along with it, like was it something else to like knock me the fuck out and make me fucking retarded? Like did you give me GHB instead? That's why you shot so much into my mouth. I just always wondered about that. Like, or was it just like some idiot trying to be cool, making me think that they gave me free acid, and since I was on ecstasy, I wouldn't notice the difference. And I think she was cool next time I saw her. I don't know. Yeah,
well, the crazy,
you have a lot of that
craziest
shit
thing
going
is,
on too.
You never take the smiley faces. That's the oldest thing in the rave community. You never take the smiley faces.
I don't think I've ever even seen those.
They're like roulettes. You don't know what you're gonna get, and that's been in the rave community for a long time. So.
If you remember when Mitsubishis were huge, that was like when the time when I was in the rave scene. So I mean, that's going back a long time.
Yeah.
So the biggest LSD operation in the United States was conducted by William Leonard Packard and his partner Gordon Todd Skinner in a decommissioned SM-65 Atlas missile silo near Wamego, Kansas. So this guy is making acid inside of a decommissioned military nuke bunker.
I just went out to Kansas.
That's right there.
I just went out to Kansas to help my family, and I got some crazy family out there the whole way. And this town, Salina, Kansas, man, there has to be this gigantic Masonic temple. They have all these Rotary clubs and all this beautiful architecture, and it's just a weird place, man. And you know about all the underground silos there, but all along the way are these beautiful churches, and you're like. You pull into these cool little towns, and you're like, what is this place, man? Kansas is wild.
Yeah, it is. It's so flat, too. I mean, it's incredibly flat land.
Hey, Nick, do you want to get that,
Which one do you want me to pull up?
the space fence one? And then that patch with the eye?
Space
I was going to
fence.
mention, while you're pulling that up, like scopolamine is like one of the main...
That's
ones like you can get in Peru, you know, and that's known that people like blowing in people's faces, and they wake up with like their intestine gone or something.
You know what's interesting? I think that may have neither that or something very close to it. I think we mentioned this, Thresh. Wasn't that like part of the whole ventilator concoction too for COVID? That was actually on there, which. If you think about it, to me, I mean, like, why are you going to give somebody something that like was already going to lower their heart rate and then put them on a ventilator? You know, so I like, I don't know.
They put it in airline sickness stuff. So if you get like a patch for if you get airline sickness, it's got scopolamine in it.
Yeah, it does. It treats upset stomach and motion sickness in small doses. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's been a serious dip in the amount of chemical engineers in the United States. Right? They're just sort of like firing all these chemical engineers, and it's funny. Where do they go to work at? Are they working on these underground projects?
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe they're just classifying all the chemical research in America. Why not?
I know in Colorado Springs for years we've made superconductors. Like before anybody made microchips, we made them here, right off Garden of the Gods Road, and they still make them. So there's some next level technology going on for sure.
Yeah, like that one electric car company I just saw yesterday is off powers. They're like, what's it called? Like starts with an R. They're there. They're like Lockheed, Bone, like every single. Yeah, every single.
And they keep the best athletes here. Olympic Training Center. You got to keep them safe. You know what I mean? So this is something that it's kind of disturbing. It's like, if this thing is operating, are we breathing in the particulates? Because they're broadcasting straight through the air now, and they can see everything in the sky. And when you see this graphic, it's showing how they do it is they have to do a lot of spraying to do it. And it's just like, everybody sees it. You know what I mean?
I don't know if this is this the same one right here or no?
Yeah, so that's a patch for it. Do you have the graphic that went with it?
Yeah, I might. Fuck.
Now look, electrical charge coming off that thing. Looks like Nuggets colors. Right there, yeah. So this is the space fence. It looks like an eye in the ocean, doesn't it?
Yeah, or even that looks like the Aura Serrata too.
Yep.
And it says it can track an object the size of a marble in low orbit.
Yo, look at the Dodin.
claiming.
It's like Odin with a D.
That looks like what CERN has.
Right, yeah. And this is showing it in the ocean.
Super
right?
Collider.
I mean, this thing looks like it's pretty technical. I mean, and it's operating. But if you notice, the space debris and how are they seeing through there? What are they broadcasting through?
Well, they just launched a mission recently that was specifically to go clean up space debris. Mm-hmm. So if that's part of the whole operation, then that means that they're basically putting this in operation now, along with this mission to clean up space debris.
Yeah, I think this got kicked off like last year. I think last summer, I believe, is when. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on last summer, weather-wise. You know.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting things in the ocean happening there.
It's located in the Kwajalein Atoll, Republic of Marshall Islands. I probably butchered that.
Never even heard of that place.
And so Space Forces, if you guys have noticed, it's kind of hard to penetrate the mystery or like what they're up to. You know what I mean? Is everything online is here's Neil deGrasse Tyson. Oh, we need to protect against EMPs.
Right.
Okay. But let's break the surface a little bit. What are you guys up to? Like, why do you need a new department? What's going on? And so you can find very little, but I think this is something cool. This is why I brought it in here, just because it kind of shows you the technical nature of what they're up to. And plus the patch is pretty cool, I think.
You know, what's interesting is that, you know, seeing this figure right here, and you're looking at the Department of Defense Informational Network kind of being in the ocean, that whenever they're referring to, I guess, the ships of Space Force, they're still referring to it as nautical terms. They're not referring to it as Air Force terms. They're still saying something like, I forget something, but it's all basically nautical terms. Like they're still using nautical terminology. which I thought was very interesting, that it's not space terminology.
And look at the CubeSats too. I just noticed that. Really, the black cubes.
Yeah.
Could that
There's
be like
UFOs been sighted of cubes lately?
CubeSats. That's what Elon Musk's Starlink is. They're all little tiny cubes that go along with it. They're basically giving him a big advertisement here.
Yeah.
Could using the water laws maybe like kind of almost like suggest the firmament in a sense might be real or something to that effect?
Yeah, I definitely think so.
That is interesting that it goes by nautical laws. So it would still be like.
I mean, I guess you could say that space is another medium. Like the ocean is a medium, but it's still. Why not use Air Force terms? I mean, it's out of the Air Force anyway.
Well, it depends on how far into space they're willing to go. I mean, that becomes seafaring. Right? We're trying to go between planets.
Right.
Right. Or just go somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure.
You have the sensors right there in Colorado. You have one looks like in New York, upstate New York, maybe. The Space Fence STC, and then you got one in California.
Isn't HARP located off of Alaska?
Yeah, they have HARP antennas up there for sure. That's where the main array was.
Mm-hmm. I remember they had that
everywhere.
They had that false missile incoming missile in Hawaii thing go off a few years back. Was it 2017?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was kind of a big deal,
It was.
Plus, it's funny. All these places normally they would have a address associated with them, or at least some sort of other indicator, but they just don't.
Yeah.
Right. It's very true.
It's another layer of incredulity, I guess.
And it does look like, that blue thing that they're showing, is that literally something that's underground? I mean, it looks like it's full of all kinds of goodies in there. There's a little cross section.
Yeah, I'm looking them up right now. Information Network.
Part of this space fence is to catch debris from a collision from 2009. And it was the Iridium 33 and the Cosmos 2251 communication satellites supposedly collided. That's part of the reason they need some of this fence. That's interesting.
Very interesting.
33.
And it's showing you, electricity is flowing with the lightning bolt.
Right.
Like a current. Like you could just send a current there. You know what I mean?
And it is a big thing is that it's radio, but it could be all sorts of telluric frequencies. You never know.
And when you start looking at the images, man, and we'll get into some of the telluric stuff and the Nikola Tesla stuff, and I think they figured out this electricity a long time ago. I think the fact that we're on gas is just ridiculous. I mean, there's so many solutions that they could do here in the springs with electricity, and they're pulling out our power plants and stuff, and we're still running. It's just very odd.
Do you want me to pull up some of the Nikola Tesla stuff now or no?
So that's, I guess it's a perfect segue. So let's go into the Nikola Tesla. Let's see what he was doing in Colorado Springs, because it's important. It's probably the reason why all this infrastructure is here in the first place. What he wanted to do. Oh, go for it, there.
Yeah, real quick. That blue circle thing. It says the DOTE, and it's like the vital infrastructure. So it looks like it's like the servers and everything that the Department of Defense runs off of, and everything runs into that. So any type of threats, vulnerabilities, incidents, all that is tracked and stored there.
Yeah.
From everywhere.
I just read that it's part of the Five Eyes, and it's part of the SpyroNet that Chelsea Manning was working on. So, yeah.
Is that the guy who was down in Antarctica that had the huge server leak or whatever? He said that they have weapons pointed at us from Antarctica.
I think so.
That was one of the leakers.
All I know,
UFO
yeah,
stuff.
Chelsea Manning was the one that that you had the sex change,
Chelsea
right?
Manning. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's dating Elon Musk's ex girlfriend.
Wow.
Yeah, he was living in Austin for a while, or she, whatever. Sorry.
No, there was a leak earlier this year about some guy living in a operation in Antarctica where they had telluric currents ready to blow up any countries that wanted to, defect or whatever.
Yeah, so Nikola Tesla, when he came out here, what he wanted to do was everybody, when you think of what he was doing, everybody pictures the Wardenclyffe Tower in their head, right? And the Wardenclyffe Tower didn't work, but the first part of that was him tapping the telluric field, right? And so if you could go back one, Nick, just to that picture, let's take a look at it. If you see the way it's coming out, he had these epiphanies about 369 and pyramidal structures. And if you look at the top of that, there's this little donut, right? And then boom, boom. And on either side of where this camera is taking a picture are two black balls. And that's where the energy is flowing in a perfect pyramidal shape in this grid, right? And he was able to pull it out of the ground strictly on electrons that were within the Earth. And when you look at the geography here, we have this amazing granite, it's tons of iron in it, really red. So it's got the conductive, it's got big pieces of mica in it to insulate it, and it's got big pieces of quartz. And then we also have the limestone right on the next layer. And that's important apparently for this because it causes the electrons to move through it, right?
I feel like that's even important in like paranormal activity.
Oh yeah. It's the rocks. I mean, it's Stonehenge, you name it. I mean, there's missing 411. All the missing 411 happens by granite. Earthquake lights. You name it. Volcanoes with the electricity that comes out of them. Mm-hmm. And so we're right here on the spine of the Earth. And when the Earth rotates, if what he wanted to do was send it to New York, and he was going to set the tower up, and the way
do it on Long
the
Island.
Earth spins, the way the Earth spins, or if you don't like the way the Earth spins, the way the stars spin, either way, there's something about that tracking motion that pulls that electricity with it as it moves, and then it keeps going, right? And so he wanted to send it to Paris, and then to Egypt, which has the same geography as here, right? And what happens when you connect them all, then it's like alternate current. Doesn't have to send it there anymore. It's a network, right? And when you read the papers, he was good to go. I mean, you're looking at the electricity right now coming out of the ground. You can go to the next one.
I was going to say on this, it looks like angel wings, by the way.
Absolutely. And go back. Can you go back, Nick? Sorry. Just want to point this out real quick. Sorry.
Did you look in the center of it? It looks like the hexagrams.
Yep. You got the hexagram, right?
Yes.
And then you have the pineal gland, that center ball. And then right above it, you have a halo. You have a toroid.
You mentioned 369, that's vortex math. And if you look at the way vortex math forms those angles, it looks like a modified symbol of the order of 9 angles. Yeah.
Which, that kind of angle that they use, that kind of shape that looks like a Space Force kind of logo shape, is what the Air Force Academy Chapel looks like. And it is all metal. It looks like it is using telluric energy for sure. And it's in a box right now, so you can't look at it. But it's a great point with the angel. And I think if the next slide is going to play into that a little bit, because when he had a lot of epiphanies when he was working with this electricity, he got zapped a couple times and said he saw the future and all kinds of different things, which really goes back to the eternal fire in the church. It goes back to all that. I mean, ether isn't just for making machines run. I think it's actually the vitality, our spirit itself. And when you pull it up out of the ground, I think it can do a lot more than just run machines. In this quote here, throughout his life, Tesla wondered where these thoughts and visions came from. He put forward the theory that the whole universe was alive, a conscious being that was able to communicate with everything in it. Nikola Tesla was a believer in a creator behind the whole of the universe, and he believed that his own creativity was not his own, that all his ideas came from the outside of him, that he was just a receiver for them. He wrote, quote, "I once had the feeling that my brain was enveloped with flames and a little sun shines in my head." Now, Nikola Tesla did not believe in afterlife, and he also said that electricity had nothing to do with electrons. The important quote about that is consciousness. I mean, if this technology has been really held from us, the implications are really crazy. And then also, if you could zap the vitality out of the air, could you just take the vitality out of the people too?
Yes.
This could be a weapon. This goes both ways.
Well, I found an article about the U.S. military contractor. His name is Hecker, and he says that they have devices down in Antarctica that use the telluric currents to beam advertisements in people's heads. And it could be that Bud Light commercial where they were talking about dream operations in 2021, right? Because, you know, the telluric currents, we're connected to the earth itself. And so as we're sleeping, we're kind of grounding. And if you can control the amount of electricity going through the earth, you can actually influence a person's dreams.
I mean, and it just makes sense this way, you know? It just, of course, the things that animate the sky, animate everything, would animate us. I mean, we don't really know what neurons firing is. You know what I mean? We've not been allowed to know the implications of all this, but other people are studying it. They've been studying it for a long time.
To your point, Michael, about Tesla's quote with the enveloped in flames and a little sun shines in my head. That's something that we've kind of mentioned on the show several times. Yeah. The little sun definitely is a pineal, by no argument there, because a pineal receives all of the information from the sun and interprets that as to where you are on the planet, what day it is, what time it is, what season it is, or anything like that. And then it corresponds all that information to the rest of your body. Does it need to be in quiescence? Does it need to be reproducing? Does it need to be what have you, right? Daytime, nighttime, what have you. But the other thing is that if you don't see the sun, say you're always indoors, then your circadians are off, your sleep is off, your vitality is off. If, you know, it all plays into being connected to the earth and the sun, and it's all because of the pineal, which leads to consciousness.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you guys, I love that episode you guys did about the birds.
Oh, thank you.
I really they have magnetite in their heads, and so do we.
Yes.
And it's just another element of all this stuff that could be even more to do with subconscious and direction and all that stuff.
That is interesting.
Well, it's interesting how intelligent birds are and their ability to talk too. The idea that maybe we have some sort of magnetization that allows us to communicate, or at least understand communication in a better way, could be linked.
And I saw a question on there real quick. Somebody asked.
Yeah, I was trying to put that up.
I have heard that, and when he thought he was being contacted by beings, that was out here, and it was signals that he was getting on his radio detection, and it is anomalous. These beeps, people have them to this day, and it is like something is communicating with you. I've seen videos of these same anomalous beeps, and nobody can explain it, and people receive them to this day on the radio. So I have heard about that.
Didn't Arecibo have that in Puerto Rico, in Costa Rica or something? Arecibo, who was getting the beeps and they just didn't know where it was from and couldn't pinpoint it.
Yep.
Something
I
else.
also wanted to
Go ahead.
I wanted to point out real quick that, like, tying it like to the local area and the Utes, it's interesting. It's talking about the sun. Pikes Peak, the main mountain there, the Utes referred it to as the mountain of the sun. Firstly, because when you come west from east, it's the first mountain you see. So as the sun is coming east to west, the sun shines off the mountain, and they also believe that they were placed on top of the mountain, the particular band of Utes that are from that area, and I just find it interesting.
And that's huge, because the fact that mountain is named the sun. When you look at some of these monuments that we're looking at, there's something pointed west that says the sun, and when you told me that, I was like, oh, because it makes a lot of sense. Shrine of the sun.
And Pikes Peak is all granite. It's known as Pikes Peak granite, like its own type of granite.
You know what I wanted to mention before we move on? It was just something you mentioned a while ago, but I just thought it was interesting because I had looked into something with Nikola Tesla. When you had mentioned, like, he definitely did want, I think he was trying to get on Long Island to build his thing. And a while ago, there was some sort of stuff I saw, like, kind of going around. I think it was probably Twitter, not Instagram. I think about, like, maybe something with Tesla. Some papers got released from, like, I guess the FBI or the feds, whoever. They released something, and I think it had something, like, rather, like, something very small but interesting. I can't even remember what that was. I remember, like, looking into it to see if I can actually find what everybody was saying was supposedly in there. And I was going through it, and it was talking about how, I mean, I don't know if it's the same family, but I found it interesting. He was trying to get land from this family called the Sweezy family on Long Island. He was trying to buy it so he could build his thing. And now, if it's the same family, which would make sense, but I can't say for sure. Going back, because now when I saw that in the paperwork, I was like, holy shit! I know what Sweezy Fuel was. Growing up as a kid, it was one of the bigger fuel companies on Long Island. And they owned tons of property in, like, a certain town in Patchogue. And the reason why they owned tons of property is because before that, they were into real estate. So I'm pretty sure it's the same family. And it's kind of funny how, like, when this happened, they weren't huge into oil yet. They were just getting into it. And it's funny how I guess they were like, fuck you. And then oil blew up and he never got to use his stuff. It's just like, it's interesting how it was like, was he even kicked to the curb when they didn't want to sell him the property because, like, they were afraid his technology would cut into their oil profits that they were planning on in the future.
Well, right. They had electrified cities all over the place, and all of them had to be destroyed so that they could have busing instead of these trolley cars and all the rest of it. And that was right around the same time period. And it's funny, too. Arecibo was destroyed in 2020. Right as all of these Space Force operations are going up online. So it's like, if anybody would be able to connect the telluric currents and the sky currents, it would be a massive, telescope in the ground.
Right. And they got rid of it.
What's really, really interesting, Nick? The New Yorker, the hotel that he died at, is the exact height of the Wardenclyffe Tower. The spires on it can work the same, and he was busy in that place, man. And there's a really interesting program that goes into it, and it shows you how they built that building, and then they go into the ground and they show you the schist that is the ground rock in New York. It's perfect for conducting. All those buildings could be powered. When you pulled this metallic flake out of the ground rock that's underneath New York City, it's like metallic as hell. It's ready for conducting like you have no idea. Like, it really makes you wonder. The Statue of Liberty gets struck by lightning all the time, and then you go Paris, even where the Cross of Henday is, everything along that line, there's these beautiful cathedrals. It really makes you wonder, man. it really makes you wonder.
That's like
even
typing
even
into
as I'm going
something.
out Kansas, all these beautiful churches all the way out. It's very interesting.
You know, it could have something to do with the metal in our heads, right? We always have to build on these ley lines.
There you go.
You know, you said something, Michael, about the area being the spinal column of the Earth. Or did you say something like that? Because I had heard that before. But if it's the whole, you know, as above, so below, then the spinal column has all of your cerebral spinal fluid, which contains all of your totipotent cells. You can basically make any cell in the body, or the ability to. It has that actual cell in it. And then I believe that actually is the sensory, like it can pick up vibrations. So it's very, very interesting that you would say that it's the, you know, spinal column of the Earth. And then that's where most of these types of experiments are happening.
Well, and then you have all your major rivers that flow out of the spinal column.
Yes.
Your Colorado,
yes,
the Arkansas, the Platte, all that.
Yeah.
And the Grand Canyon, if you've ever seen the Grand Canyon from up high, it looks like a lightning bolt. It looks like some sort of discharge caused it. It's insane. It does not look like a natural river. It's very interesting. So this right here is something that I've not seen anywhere else but this book that I have called Colorado Mysteries of Western Colorado. And it is a Bronze Age relic, right? They think, but it's a Templar. It's an image of Constantine. And this image is just so crazy, man, that they found this relic in Western Colorado, and then all these Knights Templar converge on the area in the 1800s. And to this day, the Grand Master of the Knights Templar lives here. And when you hear this guy, Timothy Hogan, talk, who's talking about coming out with all these mysteries and the things that they've had, including, he says, the bones of Jesus Christ. And he says the head of John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene, he's coming out and he says, we have the goods. We've held them here. We brought them to the New World, and we have them in underground places. So when I see a Colorado Templar relic that's Bronze Age, and he's looking at this pyramid-shaped thing, the sun. Let's see those mountains. Is he looking at the sun, maybe? The mountain? Just like Thrash was saying? You see that in front of the... and this is a famous... what's really crazy, and I just found this out recently, and this is just too much. I found out that there's a sword, a famous Templar sword called the Mineheart. And it literally is that piece of metal. I kid you not. And that is like my grandpa's name. So as we're doing all this investigation, the synchronicities, just a couple of weeks ago, I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, another synchronicity, if you go to the bottom, it's dated a day before my birthday. September 1st.
That's funny.
Which also, supposedly, there's two dates of Michael Aquino's death, one of them being September 1st, 2019.
Oh, wow.
This is a glitch in the Matrix for real. I'll have to show you guys the Mineheart, the Templar sword, because it's literally that on the sword.
You know, they found a Templar sword over on Mount Wilson Range, too. And that's like being like studied for like UFO type shit and weird shit now. From like all sorts of people.
And so the Knights Templar influence here is super palpable, obviously. I mean, the Grand Master's here, and he actually works in the space industry. A guy named Timothy Hogan, and he's actually has some really interesting podcasts, kind of has a different take on it, on letting you know, but he's here in Colorado. So when you go into the underground stuff and the mysteries of the land, they start right away. You know what I mean? As far as the natives, you know, we have the Grand Canyon myths of them coming out of the Grand Canyon, the Hopi Indians. We have old newspaper articles of them finding crazy caverns in the Grand Canyon with all these artifacts, right? And then it's covered up. And the history of the town is kind of a joke. I mean, they don't tell you anything. I mean, you really have to do some digging to penetrate the area. I mean, so it's just really curious to me and that this was found, you know what I mean?
You know what I also wonder about too, just like even with some like history, I think like throwing like Native American battles and wars or disagreements is like also like just kind of like pimped out as like just to cover up history. Yeah. In some sense, I mean, you know.
Well, you know what's really crazy, man, is these lodges, these loyal orange lodges, which how they came onto my radar was studying the conflict in Ireland. I mean, these people were blowing each other to smithereens, right? Well, we hear about the IRA, but you never heard about the loyalist groups much. So when I dug into them and I found these crazy orange vests and these rough looking guys, and like, I'm like, okay, this is a rabbit hole. And when you look into the symbols of William the Conqueror, William of Orange, Templar symbols out the ass. And so it really makes you wonder, were they really bankers that got persecuted, or did they consolidate their wealth and become pirates at sea and become the East India Company? Like,
for another point of reference, they took down the Robert E. Lee statue in Washington, D.C., and there was a time capsule inside that they had this big thing where they videotaped it. And so you can audibly hear the woman who's opening it up say, "Oh, no." Because the very first thing that dropped down was a postcard with the Knights Templar on it. And she knew that meant this was worthless to them. They're not going to do anything with it because it was one of the groups that you're not allowed to talk about in academia.
It's very interesting, man. I mean, the Oddfellows, they're one of the weirdest groups to figure out, right? It's super esoteric imagery, straight up raising orphans, creating people, filling things in their mind, just like the Loyal Lodge. And they use that hand with the heart in it, right? The Templars, and we know the Templars are associated with the Scottish Reich. Well, so is the Orange Order, I found, through the Royal Arch. When the higher degrees in the Orange Order are Purple Arch. And it's like, these guys just changed. They didn't disappear, you know?
They got to keep the dichotomy going, you know? You got to keep these wars so that you can expand your agenda. You got to control both sides. It's like in the Civil War, both sides had Freemasons in leadership positions. And, you know, there was a split, but at the very top, both gangs were run by the Order of Cincinnati, right? So is there really ever any difference?
Yep.
You know, go ahead.
Sorry. So, Nick, you mentioned the Indian Wars earlier. I wanted to point out the general or colonel that basically led the Sand Creek Massacre. He was the first Grand Master Mason of Colorado. I just wanted to point that out. It reminded me of it.
And Marianne's mentioning her hometown has Orange Order history, and that's in Canada, so that's interesting.
I found Native American Orange Orders. I found African Orange Orders still existing to this day.
Right.
It's a trip.
Is this any relation to the House of Orange?
Yep.
Yep.
Does that go back to Trump and now Space Force?
Isn't he part? He's a descendant of the House of Orange, isn't he? His grandmother was.
I know his skin is.
Ooh.
I think his grandmother was part of the House of Orange.
And then like Orange even goes back to Tahuti, like Toth again. He goes on. Remember how I was saying like he goes on the 8th sphere? Like I've always questioned, is that more symbolism even with Trump? I mean, his head even looks like the letter Resh, I think, or something else. Like even the way his head and his hair is styled, I've even seen like that could actually match like a Hebrew letter. That could be me, but
and they always portray him as orange.
Yeah, and it's like that's where like Toth or Tahuti would be on the tree starting at Hode, and I always say like I do think it jumps to like the even numbers as he goes up the tree, and like again, like even texting him, you go from like 88,022 or something like that. Again, with the 8, and I always say you're going to end up at 2 when you're done. So, orange just seems weird. And then, we're talking about Space Force and got into this, and I'm thinking Trump. Just seems weird.
He took, on the 88th, on 1688 is when he was asked to invade and pretty much got the keys handed over to him. England. That's how he took England, was on the 88th. And then the Spanish Armada invaded England and took England on 1588. Every 100 years on the 88th, they swapped the keys out, it seemed like.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's booked out. You gonna go on to the next one?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, is this like the same thing?
Yeah, I should have. I'm not very good with the slides. I just wanted to get a better picture.
Yeah, I would have pulled it up before. Damn. My bad.
No, you're good. All right, so this is a book that I got, and it's an incredible book. Dash, did you get it yet? Did you get this book?
No, not yet.
Okay, so this is Hollow Sidewalks, Tunnels Under Our Feet. Crazy. It really shows you some crazy stuff in Colorado. And so when it comes to tunnels, Colorado Springs had a lot of them. Unfortunately, most of them have been sealed up. So just a little piece there of the book, and then you go, yeah.
Oh, you want to go to the next one?
Yeah, good. Okay, so this is just a little piece of the book here, where there's also been a rumor that there is a secret tunnel from the Broadmoor to North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, for use by the President of the United States. Okay, and then it goes on to say, well, there's not really one, okay, but if you go to the next slide, here is a blueprint of the old Broadmoor with clear underground passages head towards NORAD. So, I mean,
you know what I even realized that I thought was interesting? I mean, and I hate to even get into this because I don't know if it's really applies, but when people wanted to start getting into like the Idaho 4 and they started going on about underground tunnels, they did actually point something out that I thought was interesting, that like if you have any sort of like kind of like heating type like things, there's going to be underground tunnels just for that, to run pipes to heat things. Like sometimes some places will be so big that they'll actually kind of make, like the school does, they have their energy thing off, and then that feeds everything else. So like just because of that, you'll have that whole area will have fucking tons of tunnels just for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. If places use boilers, this is important. Like old buildings, old downtowns, if they had boilers, they had boiler houses, and they wanted those away from the building a little bit because they exploded, right? And these things are high pressure. I don't know if you ever maintenance a boiler. These things are giant cylinders, and it shoots high pressured steam. And not only that, they would make hollow sidewalks. Before they did the sidewalk, they would make a passage under it so that you could walk from building to building, and all these old downtowns, and all these buildings just closed off these tunnels. It's like in every city that you'll dig into, you'll find underground stuff like crazy. What's beneath our feet is the biggest mystery, because these old towns, they definitely, and also they didn't have refrigerators back then, so they definitely. Now, what's important about the Broadmoor, guys, is this is a 5-star hotel. This was out in Colorado Springs for the longest time. Swanky, like top of the line. They don't like locals working there. This is for the top of the top. They do space expos there all the time. This is the old one, but it's like, diplomats come into town, they're going to stay there. You know what I mean? And then NORAD's literally, you get hit with a rock, so
I wanted to point out, like, my buddy, he used to be a limo driver. He used to pick up celebrities, like all kinds of famous celebrities, and he would pick them up at the airport, bring them to the Broadmoor to get like a massage or like their hair done, and then he takes them right back to the airport and they fly back to LA.
Oh wow.
Now I have done some work on that building back in the day when I did flooring, and they do have you go in underground. They have all these service things with all the uniforms of all of the people, and you're not seen. You know what I mean? You pop up on a service elevator, you do your job, and you're gone. So you don't even really get to look around very much.
Is this anywhere near Ampex?
I'm not sure.
Ampex is it's a company. It's funny we mentioned this, Nick, with Oracle. The founder of Oracle, Larry Ellison, he used to work for Ampex out of Colorado Springs division, and that was the intelligence systems section. And Ampex basically works with NASA, DHS, but their main clients are Boeing, General Aeronautics, Lockheed, Northrop, Raytheon.
I think I know where that is, and that's in another very interesting area, and that's by the Boeing building, kind of.
Okay.
I think that's off Garden of the Gods Road. I think that's where Apex is, which is where the Mason Lodge is, and which used to be called Roswell, Colorado, back in the day. It was Roswell, Colorado, and there was a mine there, a huge mine. So there's tons of underground stuff there for sure.
Isn't that
Colorado
weird that they
seems to
would put
me
that there?
like the American Darren Kuyu, right? So in Turkey, you've got massive underground cities that are meant for some, I guess, earth-changing event. And it seems like Colorado is sort of like the copy of that. They're trying to make a massive underground city for some sort of unknown event that's coming, or, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, the work Thrash has done with the Utes and the connection with the Aztecs it's crazy, man. Like, and the Aztecs have the same exact story about coming out of the navel with the tribes, you know, and I feel that. I definitely feel that, because we have so many mine shafts everywhere and they're just dynamited closed. The only cave that we get to enjoy is one of the most elaborate, beautiful caves you've ever seen, the Cave of the Winds. It's just insane. It's just a new level, stalactites, crystals, each layer's a different world, and it just makes you wonder, like, all the other stuff that's there, for sure.
I just looked up to tie it in with tunneling in a way, maybe. The Ampex it's off Academy, but it's literally right next to Austin Bluffs Park, which is all those cliffs like Palmer Park and all that.
Hey, Ritual Rock's right there.
And almost all those are like back Colorado Springs. Almost all those were mining areas.
And that's where Palmer had the Palmer House. And there's these really crazy rock formations right there. There's this place, Ritual Rock, which is like this crazy stone circle that's right there, right next to that place.
You know, Mike, something I wanted to ask you before, something, you know, kind of a side note before we go on. You've mentioned the Oddfellows a few times. Do you think they're actually like still significant?
No, I think they did what they were supposed to do. That's why they all died out. It was like, I think it's just like the Orange Order. It's about controlling frontiers. Once the frontier's controlled, those lodges are dead. They don't have any orphans to raise anymore. They can't get away with that kind of stuff anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're a bizarre group, man.
Yeah, they have interested me, and I've thought about looking into them kind of before, but I didn't know how significant they really were. But I mean, then there's times where it's like I've come across certain things that, like, you know, you kind of like still even gloss over knowing who they are, thinking they're so insignificant, and I think they may actually be more significant, and that's why you don't even think about them, because that's how good they are.
I think it was important. It's just like the Orange Order. Like, these guys swore over Bibles for their initiations. A lot of them were raised. They start off with the apprentice boys, right? And these are the everyday people lodges, right? The upper classes, they're the Masons, and then there's the Templars, right? Like, when you look into our history, we had Oddfellows, but they were just like the poor. You know what I mean? It's like a group for each. But, and when you look at the Odd Fellows, they'll show you biblical stuff, just like the Orange Order. And when you go through the initiations, they're making these guys swear on Bibles. When you go into the Masons, they have different beliefs. They're going into the mystery school stuff, the esoteric, you know what I mean? It seems...
What I think is important about the idea of a lodge is that these are sort of safe houses, right? So as these different higher ups in these groups move around, they know that they can be safe there and find membership and find camaraderie. That's what they used them for in Europe. That's what they used them as trading posts in Africa.
Yeah. You know what
That's sort of a long tradition.
You know what I came across, Headless, and I think Lisa even noticed the same thing, and possibly Teresa, when we were covering the Mason lodges near funeral homes. We started noticing that some of them, when they popped up on Google Maps, like they offered lodging, and it was like for other members and stuff in case you're traveling through. I was like, that's really interesting.
One of the main
I'm like, what are these, safe houses?
One of the main reasons why people joined these lodges was to get death benefits. So, you know, all of these lodges are very closely related to, you know, life insurance and actually paying out based off of your membership into them. That's one of the longest held traditions. But, you know, part of that is also traveling rights. So once you're a member, you can go anywhere that they have lodges.
Did you see that the Flower of the Killing Moon or something like that? Some shit like that. I'm screwing it up. Leonardo DiCaprio was in it and Robert De Niro. Did you see that, Headless?
I don't think I've seen that one, no.
Because that's interesting, because like Robert De Niro was a Mason, and I think he might have even been involved in like the KKK, possibly. But he was a Mason, and he was like huge with like insurance and like kind of putting insurance on people and then knocking them off later to to collect money. But that's just kind of interesting how you just said that, and like I saw a connection of that in that movie.
Well, there was an AMC TV show where they go really, really into depth about the whole lodge practice in America. And if you look up Lodge something, I think it's Lodge 33 on AMC, you'll find a whole TV show, sort of a fictionalized story, but kind of the alchemical roots of a lot of this stuff is packed into that show. It was great, I thought.
Nice. I'll go. Do you want to go to the next one, Mike?
Yeah, you can go to the next one. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so when you get to... Can you go to the next one? Sorry.
Sure,
one. I have them out of order. Okay, when you go to the top of Pikes Peak, there is a 17-ton piece of granite that they put a time capsule in. And this isn't the actual thing, but this is what is on it. It's just really hard to read the pictures. I couldn't find a picture where you could read it, and you can't even really read the fine print on this picture. The point is this is the Cryptic Masons put this here, okay, in 1899. Now, I've found newspaper articles where the Knights Templar, as far back as in the 1870s, the late 1870s, made trips to Pikes Peak. But they put this plaque up there, and, you know, every 100 years they came back or whatever. And on the top there, you see the Alpha and Omega symbol with a little like triangle with the sun in it, kind of like Constantine's vision, right? And then an APH on it. And so that always had me curious, and I always, what the heck is this about, right? And you can go back to that backslide real quick. This is just shows you, yeah, you got the sword.
Little Mason thing too, actually.
Yeah. If you look, it's showing it's penetrated. You know, when you look at Pikes Peak, from a plane, the clouds will just lay like this on the feet of it, like there's a base where everything levels out. On Divide, you get to Divide, everything's all of a sudden flat, and then it rises up, and that's kind of when I see that sword going through. I think of those clouds laying right over it, you know. And so Cryptic Masons, can you hit the next slide, Nick?
Sure.
And I forgot this note, but this kind of goes along with what we were proving with the so this is revelation or his ideas about the Egyptian pyramids being sources of power, right? So besides ideas that Tesla implemented and patented, he also had many other interests in different fields of research, some quite esoteric. One of the most unusual was his preoccupation with the Egyptian pyramids, one of humanity's most mysterious and magnificent constructions. Tesla believed they served a higher purpose and was investigating them throughout his life. What did he find so alluring about the pyramids? He wondered if they weren't giant transmitters of energy, and thought that coincided with his investigation into how to send energy wirelessly. In 1905, Tesla filed a patent in the U.S. titled The Art of Transmitting Electrical Energy Through the Natural Medium, outlining designs for a series of generators around the world, which he would tap the ionosphere for energy collections. He saw planet Earth itself with its two poles as a giant electrical generator for limitless energy. His triangular-shaped design became known as the Tesla electromagnetic pyramid. So there's a lot of stuff going on with the pyramid power plants.
Well, didn't Tesla demonstrate his ideas in Colorado?
Oh yeah. And like right here, that picture you're seeing right there. So in 1905, Tesla filed a patent in the U.S. titled The Art of Transmitting Electrical Power Through the Natural Medium, outlining designs in a series of okay. I already read that part.
Oops, it's all right.
So, no, it's okay. But that picture is important, I think. So it's showing it coming out of the ball and going into those things in a pyramidal shape, you know? You can hit the next slide.
Well, even look at the shape of the roof. It's pyramid-like. He built it like a pyramid.
Yep, and he raised a big copper ball on the roof like a church.
And then in the earlier picture, it looked like he had like seats sitting in the different cardinal directions, like he was like experimenting where he sat if it affected something. Or maybe he was doing some sort of ritual or something with
it's interesting if you have chairs for each direction.
Because it looked like it was just him there.
Okay, this is the other part of the note. Another aspect of Tesla's thinking reportedly related to numerology. Tesla was, by many accounts, an unusual individual obsessed with obsessive qualities, such as obsession with the numbers 3, 6, and 9, which he believed were the keys to the universe. He would drive around buildings 3 times before going in, or stay in hotels with numbers divisible by 3. He made other choices in sets of 3. Some believe Tesla's obsession with these numbers connected to his preference for the pyramidal shapes and the benefit that there was for some fundamental mathematical law and ratios that are part of. Okay.
Sorry.
You're good. Part of universal math language. As we don't know precisely how the pyramids were built and why, they looked at by some as creations that may either be generating energy or by serving as deliberately installed messengers or even code from an ancient civilization. Which I think that's...
Mike, that's the theory, is that vortex math is the actual algorithm of the divine algorithm that explains the blueprint of the universe. That's the whole concept of vortex math. Yeah.
And I can't stop seeing 369s. They're just everywhere now.
Yo, you know what I thought was interesting? Yesterday I was getting a tattoo and I noticed that the building next to it, the address was 369. I was like, yo, that's bugged out.
There you go. It's Tahuti talking.
Yo. I was like,
it is I who built the great pyramids. All right. Okay, this is... I had them out of order. You can go to the next one. Let's see if we can find here. Okay, so we'll just go. This is his I'll just quickly read it a little bit. The important part is the conductive nature of low pressure air. That's I think he came out here, you know. And right at the bottom, you see his goals are transmitting signals from Pikes Peak to Paris. So, and it shows here that it's connection to New York. I think, my bad. I should have looked over these notes.
Yeah, it does show a connection to his downtown New York City laboratory for his high voltage experiments.
Plan for installation of the Wardenclyffe Tower upon his arrival. So, yeah.
The conduction through low pressure air is a crazy connection to the Andes too. You know, you got all the mountains down there. It's the same kind of environment.
Yep. Yeah, there's something about it. That's why, you know, Tibet too, you have all the mystics out there. I think if it's good for transmitting electricity, it's good for psychic powers too. And you know what I mean? It's like something about it. America the Beautiful is written on the top of Pikes Peak. You know, there's
in the Bible it says, beware of those who worship on high places. And there you go.
Yep. Okay.
So that shit's crazy with the butterflies. Sorry, I was reading.
Yeah. So this part right here just shows you how amazing his actual results were here in town. He produced artificial lighting with discharges consisting of millions of volts and up to 135 feet long. People walking along the streets observed sparks jumping between their feet and the ground, sparks spraying from water line taps when touched. Light bulbs within 100 feet of the lab glowed even when turned off. Horses in a lively stable bolted from their stables after receiving shocks through their metal shoes. Butterflies were electrified, swirling in circles of blue halos of St. Elmo's fire around their wings. Now, I think maybe that last quote was him talking about something else, but
yeah, I was just like, yo, that's weird.
I think he's talking about his mind. I think when you pull this energy out of the ground, it does something to you. I mean, if you go back to the ether, all the mystery schools, you know, the eternal fire, it's not just, it's also religious. Like, I think there's so many implications with this technology for what it could do to your actual body.
Go back to the Bible, all the fire that doesn't burn. What are they talking about? Like, if there is that much power in the air, you could actually throw it off with your hands.
Right.
See it, you know?
Well, I mean, look at all the towers on top of Cheyenne Mountain. I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
Right next to the Shrine of the Sun, baby. Okay, so this is just showing it from the outside. It looks a lot like Eiffel Tower, doesn't it? That's his little shack where all the magic happened in. That's all he had. It wasn't a Wardenclyffe Tower deal out here. This is what it was. Yeah, and you're good.
Look, you can see the printer's home in the background. Yeah, which is still there.
Crazy ass old building. Okay, so who are the Cryptic Masons? They put that thing up there. Well, who are they? It's the second part of the York Rite system of Masonic degrees, and last found within the Rite that deals with the specifically with the Hieromeric legend. These degrees are the gateway to the temple restoration rituals for the second temple legend. So I think that's kind of interesting. It's all about that second temple legend, right?
Right, it's all the first degree stuff.
Yeah. And that graphic, Nick, could you go back 4 slides?
Sure.
So this is some of the art that the Cryptic Masons have with their second temple legend. And if you look at that, it's showing you something underground. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Well, that's the story of Hiram Abiff, right? Where
Yeah, that's what I
Hiram
figured.
is
It's
killed
Hiram.
by the three brothers. I forgot their names. It's like Jubilo or something.
Yeah,
But they
yeah.
talk about that in the movie From Hell.
Yes, that's the Jew. Yeah, they blame it on the Jews, which is Jubilee, Jubellum, or something else. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was 3 of them that took out Hiram.
That was a
Abiff.
dark fucking movie.
Yeah, it was a very interesting movie too. I think there might have been like some actual like real truths that was like kind of thrown in your face.
The possession of the guy at the end.
That, and I even think like, you know, they even show like Masons like sitting in on people like cutting motherfuckers open and just like looking at them.
Right.
And again, like that's why sometimes I think like in some art you will see parts of your body in their shit.
Man, so I just thought this was a very provocative graphic that, you know what I mean? It's very underground, secret stuff underground, you know.
You know what this reminds me of? You know, the whole theory about MK Ultra being done, you know, underground, and how they make people into alters. And that in my mind, I thought alters is like an alternate personality, but maybe they were making them as actual altars to sacrifice something on top of.
Right.
Yeah. Like that I don't know, that image basically brought that to mind.
There's some crazy images in the in our old courthouse. There is this pillar with this goddess, but it's kind of a hermaphroditic looking goddess, kind of hard to tell. Looks like the Shriner kind of hat. And it's holding the sign that says gold with 2 swastikas on it, and falling from, there's these intestines wrapped around it like a belt, and falling from it is a baby, and the baby's like hung up and is like upside down. It's like sacrifice from the high places, right? And then when you go to the Shrine of the Sun, the scary imagery there, it's like there's definitely dark stuff that goes on.
Well, at the very basis of the Shining City is an altar that they use to sacrifice things on. So what they're saying in this picture is that all of this stuff is built on ancient human sacrifice.
Yeah, and there's you know, Club Q shooting right on top of old pyramid potentially. Like seriously, it's right there.
Well, you know what? It would be interesting. Do you know, like, was there any details about, like, in the shooting with anybody getting shot in the back of the head?
I don't know, man. I should look into it a lot more. That one hits super close to home, bro.
Because
I kind of thrashed some stuff on that, but I got the goods all the way through and through on that. But I kind of want somebody else to say it. You know
when I was a little baby, I lived in the apartment complex right next to it.
You kidding me? So
No,
did
I
I.
lived in the apartment, yeah.
Wow.
Greensboro?
Yeah.
I was in Green.
You guys have always been
Yeah,
arm's reach of each other your whole life, and you've never known it.
that's fucked out,
That's
right?
amazing. Yeah, same here then. That's crazy, bro. Wow. I have family that lives right by there, and I know people that work with some of the groups that do burlesque dancing in the Burleby, and that group there's some crazy groups involved with that, and we got the goods on it, but I don't know if we should let it go here, so stay tuned.
All right.
That's a good teaser.
Awesome. There's something I did want to ask, and now I totally forgot. It took me off guard. I didn't think you were going to wrap it up yet.
No, yeah, well, whenever you need to wrap it up, we still got plenty we could go through.
Yeah, we can go like another
crazy
10,
detail,
15
though.
minutes if you want. Or we could just wrap it up here, actually. That's fine. That works.
Yeah,
out,
we can just
actually.
wrap it here because that's perfect, because then
I don't
then
want
we
to get
could go
into
and just-
something and like
yeah.
kind of like leave halfway off. You know, I'd rather just give you time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Oops. There we go.
I want to hear about that shooting.
I know. So do I.
Hey,
I'm
yo,
looking it up.
that's what I was thinking about. I
I'm
was
looking
stuck
it
on
up
that.
right now.
I was stuck on that, and I think it was. I forgot why. It might have literally been because I was working on covering ICP. Somehow I got into like 17 and QAnon, because ICP is kind of big with the number 17. And some of the artists that they mess with are like huge with it, where it's like all over their clothes and like their face. And I realized that like the letter Q in Hebrew, quaf, or however you pronounce that, also matches like the back of the head. And like I'm probably stoned when another weird fucking stoned thought. But like I'm thinking of Q, and like you think of like Robert F. Kennedy. Now I know they don't focus so much on him. They're always kind of going back to RF, the other one that died in the plane crash, thinking he's still alive. But like I did find it interesting how like that was like even one of the weird discrepancies with Robert F. Kennedy is like in the video he gets blasted on the side of the face, but yet they're saying he got blown in the back of the head. And I'm like, it's kind of like, it was just like a weird thought. And I'm like, watch like somebody get like popped in the back of the head before the fucking elections. Then it's like, and Q is involved.
There's so much there.
Yeah,
bro.
no, I don't know. It was just
no
like, that's
idea.
really weird. And then like, it even made me think about like people who have like known for like blowing their brains out. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's that old just like, did Kurt Cobain, like, did his contract just end and he retired? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Weird shit
Courtney
like that
Love.
goes to mind.
Courtney Love was big time, and like her father was a general, and he pimped her out. That's a sick story right there, and so that's what Kurt Cobain was all caught up in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a whole.
They made a fortune, and they demoralized an entire population. They gave people they gave people an idol who killed themselves.
Well, you know
How many
what?
people killed themselves after that? Like.
We could probably get into this for a while, but I do think, like, I've said it before, even growing up, I was big into, like, not big into Nirvana too much. I mean, I listened to them. I was a little bit more into heavier shit. I liked their Bleach album because it was a little bit harder, I guess. But, like, them and, like, a lot of other bands that came out then, I really do think, unfortunately, really did help, like, kind of, like, push kids into being, like, very emotional, like too emotional.
So,
like almost like let their emotions rule who they were.
I loved Korn, you know what I mean? Korn, and I still love Korn, but man, that's dark.
Or even like, I mean, it's like to get bands like Typo Negative, like, certain fans that listen to them, very goth and like emotional and shit. It was just weird, like just how I did notice, like during a certain era, it was like I often wondered, because we're talking about Kurt Cobain, I have wondered about him. Like, was he kind of like, did he know what he was doing, or did they just realize like this kid would be great to like pimp out and like kind of like use for this agenda as well, or did it just work out that way? But I do think there might have been like a correlated effort through music, as there's probably been 20, 30 years prior to that then, to like change people's thoughts.
Wasn't he a member of the 27 Club too?
Yes.
He died at 27 like all the other artists.
And the smiley face is the logo.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, it's messed up.
I even think like their Nevermind album, that whole album cover is occultist shit. Even though it looks very plain, I actually do think it's very occult. And like some of his music would make more sense.
Entire radio. Before that, rock radio was all this other, like 1980s style hair bands, and then all of a sudden, once Nirvana came out, it switched overnight. And it was a whole different style of music that took over, and you didn't hear that other hair metal stuff until the 2000s.
Yeah.
So it was clogging everything. It was like a total takeover.
I thought it was the funniest shit too. It's like I played the guitar too when I was younger. And like I was more into like Metallica and Megadeth and shit like that. And I was just like, I looked at like I got some of like their books, and I was just like, yo, this is like I can play this. That's a problem.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
Fuck grunge.
Yeah.
I was like, are you shitting me? This is what?
This first song I learned. Don't.
Grunge ruined all the music I love. High pitched metal singing and super fast drumming.
If somebody wanted to learn the guitar, I'd be like, go get Nevermind and Bleach and practice that for like 6 months.
Hey, the cocaine age was done. Noriega was done. We were in Iraq now. We need heroin vibes. Buy the heroin.
Just talking about that how like the cocaine wars, we morphed over into heroin, and then now we're morphed into fentanyl. No.
Hey, that's a really good point. I mean, how much
What's
money?
the music? What's the music for fentanyl? We got to pick it. Somebody has to pick the official music of fentanyl. Nobody's done that.
Oh man,
That's
right?
true.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, it's all the mumble rappers have died
Mumble
from.
rap.
Yeah.
I got this kid who is really into like I don't know. It's this really hard techno. It sounds like cars crashing into each other. I forget what it's called.
Industrial.
But it's just like how
I
you
was like,
listen
right,
to
that's
that
what I was
crap.
thinking. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
industrial.
Hardcore does, yeah, there's some ugly. That's another thing. Electronic music has gotten dark, man. I'm seeing the darkest stuff I've ever seen in that music. And it used to be all peace and love, like in ecstasy and, you know, getting into higher levels. Now it's the craziest darkness that I've ever seen put into some of this stuff.
A lot
Have
of
you
those.
seen the laser shows? It's called dubstep.
Yeah, it
He's
does.
really into dubstep.
I remember that stuff. Yeah.
They've got massive laser shows associated with this. Huge scene.
It's huge, yeah. And now it's bass music, trap music. It always changes, you know what I mean? I try to stay with some of the new stuff, but there's good stuff throughout
Yeah,
it. There's crap
I can't.
sprinkled through it too. So
There's very little that I still like with electronic music, unfortunately. It's
That's my
changed so much
nomination.
how it was like 20 years ago. I mean, I guess that should be expected that long ago, but like, fuck, I don't know.
there's just so much now.
Yeah. Just like so many.
There's so
it's
much.
just- And like,
So much fentanyl music.
so much. And even again, like even like I don't know, just some stuff when it's like you even listen to the music, you're like, I don't know. It's just like, how the fuck is that? Like that's such like an easy fucking program right there. I don't know. It's like it's such a shitty loop, and that like got huge. Like how the fuck did that happen? You know, it's just like believe it or not, some people may knock it, but like if you actually want to make really good electronic music, you're actually gonna have to know what the fuck you're doing with those machines. It's not just like little buttons you're slapping around. You're actually the reason it's good is because you fucking tweak that sound to you. Like you're not like ripping it off anybody. Like it's very hard actually to make decent electronic music. In my opinion. To
I'm a
impress
fan.
me.
I never tried making it, but I've tried messing around, matching beats and all that. I was the guy with the truck. Put the equipment in the truck. We're going to the mountains. I've always been a fan, though, man.
That sounds awesome.
I guess I'll wrap it up. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up here. So I guess I'll let everybody promote themselves again. Lisa, would you like to let everybody know where they can reach you if they happen to have any questions or anything? Or if they want to invite you on their show as well? You never know.
You can contact me on Twitter, Solis Lisa, or Instagram, Lisa Solis.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Headless, let everybody know where they can find your stuff and where they can get in touch with you.
Well, you could probably find me on X at Headless Giant. I'll see what I can do with that. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm going to get back into Spotify soon. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I got to talk to you about your podcast, actually. Maybe one day during the week we can,
because they switched over and I haven't switched it back, so I got a whole new set of tools.
Yeah, we got to get you on everything, man. You really should, yeah. All right. Thresh, you want to let people know where they can reach you in case they want to hit you up for something, at least, on your social media? Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, just Instagram. It's right there on the screen. I'm not even going to
try there you
try
go. That's even great.
spelling it out this time.
Yeah. Narmosh Thresh. So,
Yep.
Very well. And Mike, let everybody know again where they can find your other work and if they want to reach you somehow.
Yeah. If you want to hear my backstory, if you want to hear a little bit more of the Space Force subconscious realms, we did a 3-parter, and then I did one on going into kind of the prison history and biker gangs, a little bit of that and the symbolism. Then we did the Loyal Orange Lodge episode, William the Orange. That one's coming out soon. That's going to be really good. I did one with Threshold Saints, Jin the Ninja. That's coming out soon. And I'll be on End of the Days radio on the 31st. So
Awesome, man.
check it out.
I
Yeah.
have to try to actually remember that and stop by.
It's a lot now. They're
for
all
you.
building up. So yeah.
Good for you, man. That's what's up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I don't, I may not have the info down there now. I don't remember. I made this so long ago. I probably copied and pasted it from the week before. If the your links aren't there, I will add it afterwards. So if people want to check out their stuff on the live, it will be there. Thank you, everybody who was in the chat as well. A lot of you showed up. That is what's up. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the comments and all. Slick, again, thank you for all the stuff that you drop, even though I can't understand half of it. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, and I guess probably, hopefully, maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll come back and do part 3. And then I think after that, we have like another topic that maybe all of us could continue with, like I said again. So, yeah, definitely keep a lookout. I had a great time with all of you. Again, I appreciate all of you to make the time to come on, especially on the weekend. And thank you again to everybody in the chat. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.